Glad that y'all are with us on the fourth Sunday of Lent. Here we are. This is the passage that kind of makes its time. Typically comes around the fourth Sunday of Lent. It's a long passage. It's John. And actually have done some more reading, done some more homework. I can now tell you why the calendar is somewhat like it is, okay? I know, actually. Yes, somewhere around in the, maybe the 3rd, 4th century is when they started assigning passages to festival days. But then, much later, probably 1000, that's when they had a one-year kind of calendar. And then probably in the 60s-ish, the Catholic Church came out kind of with the calendar we have, with the 3 years. And the reason that John gets left out of the 3-year cycle is because it doesn't fit the same format that the other 3 do, right? The other 3 we call the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke. They're synoptic, they're like, which is the Greek word for alike. So y'all know a Greek word today. Yeah. And so it doesn't follow like a chronological order like the others do. Because remember, when Jesus goes in and turns over the tables in the temple, you know, in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, that happens at the end, right? You know, when he comes for last week. In John's gospel, it happens in the first couple chapters, you know, early. It's like, okay, that's weird. Because you wouldn't get away with that. Some people go, well, he did it twice. You don't get away with that but once, you know, which is what happened. But so John's gospel doesn't fit. And so why does it get so much, the stories kind of fit the Lenten aspect, and then why does it get put in Easter with Mark, and Mark being my favorite. I should have known this. And you go, wow, you're still learning stuff all these years later. The obvious, most simple reason is because Mark's gospel is shorter. Duh. I'm like, oh yeah, I should know that. But obviously I didn't. So there you have it. So there's those parts and why John's gospel is why the calendar works out the way it does. So today is John's turn to kind of stand out, and he does with, again, another long story. And you kind of go, okay, where can you pull out sections? You can't. You have to tell this whole story. If you didn't tell this whole story, it wouldn't make sense. You know, it's kind of like, you know how if you grew up I grew up in a holiness church that still used hymnals when I was growing up, and then of course they did away with that with much more kind of praise and worship songs. But they would pick a verse and they'd go, okay, we're going to sing stanzas 1, 3, and 5. You do that? And well, if you do that to A Mighty Fortress Is Our God, which is a typical hymn which tells the story all the way through, that hymn makes no sense whatsoever. So you can't go, hey, we're going to sing verses 1, 3, and 5. You have to sing them all, or it just doesn't. You're just singing to fill space. Yeah, that's it. You're like, oh, they can't get out too early. They'll get used to that. But there's that. So here we go. I love this story. This story is a lot of fun, and it's really jam-packed with a lot of things that were going on in their day and what John's community was up against at the end of the first century. Some of the things that were happening at the end of the first century, John's community, they're Jews who were now Christians, and so they're going to synagogue on Saturday and worshiping like they always have, because they don't necessarily see this as we kind of recognize or we see ourselves like the Jewish faith's over here and we're over here. But they didn't, they just saw Jesus as an extension of their faith because it was the faith. And so they just saw themselves following Jesus as an extension of that. He's the one that we've been looking for. So it's not, okay, you guys are over there and we're over here. It's, we're the same. So they were still going to the temple, or in synagogues, they were going to worship on Saturdays, which was Sabbath. And then they would get together in their own little groups on Sunday, which is the Lord's Day, which is the day we celebrate because of the resurrection. And so they were still going to the temple, and then you go talking about Jesus in the temple, and other people didn't like it, so they started kicking them out of the community. And that's how you have this notion that comes up in this passage too, and see how that, think about how that in John's community at the end of the first century plays into this story, or how this story plays into what's happening to them in their day. Okay? All right. And as he walked along, he saw a man blind from birth, and he is Jesus. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, the man or his parents, that he was born blind?" And Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's work might be revealed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world." Another I am saying. When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva and spread the mud on the man's eyes, saying to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. Then he went and washed and came back and able to see. The neighbors and those who had seen him before as a beggar began to ask, "Is this not the man who used to sit and beg?" Some were saying, "It is he." Others were saying, "No, but is someone like him?" He kept saying, "I'm the man." But they kept asking him, "Then how were your eyes opened?" And he answered, "The man called Jesus made mud, spread it on my eyes, and said to me, go to Siloam and wash. Then I went and washed and received my sight." And they said to him, "Where is he?" And he said, "I don't know." They brought to the Pharisees the man who had formerly been blind. Now it was a Sabbath day when Jesus made the mud and opened his eyes. And then the Pharisees also began to ask him how he had received his sight. And he said to them, "He put mud on my eyes, and then I washed, and now I see." Some of the Pharisees said, This man is not from God, for he does not observe the Sabbath." But others said, "How can a man who is a sinner perform such signs?" And they were divided. So they said again to the blind man, "What do you say about him? It was your eyes he opened." And he said, "He is a prophet." The Jews did not believe that he had been blind and had received his sight until they called it the parents of the man who had received his sight and asked them, "Is this your son who you say was born blind? How then does he now see?" And his parents answered, "We know that this is our son and that he was born blind. But we do not know how it is that he now sees, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him. He's of age. He will speak for himself." His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews. For the Jews had already agreed that anyone who confessed Jesus to be the Messiah would be put out of the synagogue. Therefore his parents said, "He is of age. Ask him." So for the second time they called the man who had been blind, and they said to him, "Give glory to God. We know that this man is a sinner." And he answered, "I don't know whether he is a sinner. One thing I do know, that though I was blind, now I see."
And they said to him, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" And he answered them, "I have told you already, and you would not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you also want to become his disciples?" Then they reviled him, saying, You are his disciple, but we are disciples of Moses. We know that God has spoken to Moses, but as for this man, we do not know where he comes from. And the man answered, "Here's an astonishing thing. You do not know where he comes from, and yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but he does listen to the one who worships him and obeys his will. Never since the world began has it been heard that anyone opened the eyes of a person born blind. If this man were not from God, he could do nothing." They answered him, "You were born entirely in sins, and are you trying to teach us?" And they drove him out. Jesus heard that they had driven him out, and when he found him, he said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" And he answered, "And who is he, sir? Tell me, so that I may believe in him." And Jesus said to him, "You have seen him, and the one speaking with you is he." And he said, "Lord, I believe." And he worshiped him. And Jesus said to him, "I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see may see, and those who do see may become blind." Some of the Pharisees near him heard this and said to him, "Surely we are not blind, are we?" And Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would not have sin. But now that you say we see, your sin remains." Whew, that's long. Yeah, it is all over. It is so full, and then you go, okay, how do you cut it? You can't really cut the story. And then you go, okay, what do you preach about? There's like so many different options, right? I know. Okay. Familiar?
1 through 12 was familiar.
1 through 12 was familiar, okay.
That's like a Sunday school thing when you're
Yeah.
a kid.
Okay. So, what you hearing there?
They think that they're free of sin and everybody. This man's a sinner because he's born blind.
Okay.
It's either his or his parents' sin.
Right.
And then the fact that he can't. What was it? He can't hear. Let's see. What was it? Open the eyes of the person blind. This man's blind. I'll find it.
Okay. Okay, the opening question. Here's a guy who's born blind, so obviously somebody sinned. What about the question, who is it, Jesus? Him or his parents?
They're looking for somebody to blame.
Yeah, we always do, but yes, as long as it's not us. But what's wrong with that question?
If you have an affliction that somebody had to have sinned.
How can a person born blind be the what? How could you possibly be the sinner?
And that's how they dealt with any affliction.
Well, right, it is. This is Gnosticism, another part of issues that are going on at the end of the first century. This notion of prenatal sin. I mean, I don't know what's going on in there, but this guy, if he's to blame for his sin, it's not good. You know, I don't know how that works. But here the disciples, hey, Jesus, obviously, this is a punishment for something that's happened. And we have to discern who is to blame here.
Well, maybe because they didn't believe it was the same person who was given his sight,
Mhm.
that they are not sure, whether he really was born blind from birth.
Well, the disciples are the ones who are asking this when he was still blind. So they're still trying. I mean, it is this kind of notion of first of all, when we're talking about blaming people and the right, like
rational thought is out the window. Okay, and that's and with this notion of Gnosticism there, that they do have this, you know, I don't totally understand it, but that somehow it made sense to them that he could actually be the reason for his own sin, which makes, I'm like, I don't get that at all.
But what difference does it make? What difference does it make? I mean,
Ah.
why does it matter? In their thinking, someone's to blame, okay.
Okay, in their thinking. Hold on to that, but go ahead.
So what does it matter?
What was their justification for him being born blind?
Right.
There had to be a reason he was born blind.
And somebody has to be a sinner.
Well, aren't we all?
Yeah. But don't we always, listen to we have to catch ourselves too by when we're always looking for some reason to blame people for their situation. We do. I mean,
Then where did you go wrong?
yeah. Come hang out with me on Monday and watch the line here in front of, and listen to some of the things that I hear people say about that. And so, we always have this notion of we've got to get to the bottom of this, and we've got to point the finger at somebody.
That
Go ahead.
whole book of why do bad things happen to good people.
Yeah.
We're always looking for
Mm-hmm.
the answer, but I think for us, we want to know what went wrong there so we don't duplicate it. We don't want that to happen to us.
Yeah. So ultimately, Jesus says, well, this is so God's will can be displayed here.
So basically, this guy's been blind, that this miracle.
Yeah, which makes me a little queasy. That kind of yeah, that's right, right. Yeah, this wreck happened just so, just to teach us a lesson. But that's not ultimately why I think we're getting at here. Gosh, I hope not. But it is this notion of in moments like this, God can be. There is a moment of God's inbreaking into the world. And so Jesus does this funky thing, which just grosses me out. I know. He spits in the dirt and wipes it on his face and kadoom, there. And so suddenly he sees, and then this is when the story just breaks loose. And everybody's going, I don't know, maybe, what about that? And everybody starts questioning everything. And notice, and great, I love the fact that you said miracle, because where is it? Verse 16. Some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from God, for he does not observe the Sabbath. But others said, how can a man who is a sinner perform such signs? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
Where he says, we know that God does not listen to sinners.
Right. Yeah.
He only listens to those who worship and praise him.
Yeah. So yeah, he's definitely, the man's calling him out for that.
Saying,
Yeah.
he listens to us, but you're a sinner, he don't listen to you.
Yeah. But this word sign, that is John's word. He never uses the word miracle. He uses the word sign, because miracles always point to something beyond themselves. The man just doesn't get his sight back just so God can go, woo, check me out. But it's just to point to this kingdom of God. So it's a sign that's going, for John, it's a sign that points to something bigger. And here you have this guy, which the story is about sight. It is about sight. But it's also something, it's much bigger than just literal seeing. It's about people who are spiritually blind compared to people who are not. And the people in this story who are spiritually blind are the people who claim they see perfectly and are above sin. The religious people in this story. So, and notice here too, the part we talked about how in John's community they were getting kicked out of the synagogue. What's happening in this story when they go to talk to his parents aren't even willing to stand up for him because that the Jews were throwing people out of the synagogue. So that's what's taking place in their day. So you hear how that story kind of is playing out for the people that John's writing to. And they're the people in the community of faith that they feel they're being persecuted because of their commitment to Jesus and getting thrown out. That even the tension of their day, that even families were being a problem. That mom and dad were like, yeah, that's our son. Yeah, he was born blind. Yeah, we're not going to say, because they don't want to get thrown out of the community, because community's everything. So, what is that? I mean, has religion ever become a problem in anybody's family? Never. Yeah. That following Jesus was an issue that confronted them in such a serious way that they had this issue. And let me say continually, over and over again, so we do not have a problem, especially in this day and age with everything that's going on in the world. When John says the Jews, he is talking about the leadership of the synagogue and the community. This is not an Aryan nation interpretation of the Bible where the Jews are bad. The Jews are all bad. It's not what they're saying. They are saying that the leadership here, the Pharisees who were throwing the Jewish Christians out of the community, are the issue here. And so, please, Lord, do not think anything else about that. We have to, our Jewish brothers and sisters, think about them in a great way today, strongly. But they are having tension here with the leadership and the understanding of these Pharisees who see themselves as even above sin in this way, that you, born blind, would even talk to us this way? Jeez. And in the end, this is a really sad story in a lot of ways when you think about all the implications. Here's this guy who got up one day. He was blind from birth. Why? I don't know. I mean, so he's going along. The disciples just happen to notice him, call him out. Jesus goes, oh, just watch this. Spits in the mud, gross as all it can be, wipes it on his face, says, go do this. He does what Jesus says to do. He sees. And then all hell breaks loose in his life.
Yeah, because apparently when you get your sight back, your face changes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's just like, the story doesn't.
To change the way you look too, because nobody.
Right. Well, I think, is that not just a funky, interaction of how people, we definitely want to doubt any kind of sense of grace. We do. That can't be right. That can't be right.
You think about when you see someone that you're acquainted with
Uh-huh.
out somewhere, and you're like,
Uh-huh.
should know them.
Yeah.
But it's not in context with
Yeah.
how you see them.
Right.
And so I think that's part of what's going on. I mean, they're used to seeing him
Yeah.
sitting there as a bear,
Right.
blind.
Right.
Now he's up walking around, can see and.
It definitely is the confrontational with
with what we want to accept as an encounter. That can't be right. That can't be right. Someone whose life is transformed in some way or another, that can't be right. It just can't be right.
Someone you knew growing up.
Yeah.
Turns out to be a preacher in your life.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've lived through that. I've lived through that scenario. Yeah. I live through it all the time, actually, when people are like, "Yo, so you're a preacher?" Huh? Wow. I know. Funny. But so this radical change in his life, and it's supposed to be a good thing, right? A person who could not see can now see. And now he is exiled. His parents turn on him. His community turns on him. Everybody turns on him. And we're supposed to be going, "Ooh, we got a sight. This is good." And that could bring us to this notion that sometimes our interactions with Jesus aren't always going to play out the way we want them to. This is a good thing. But everybody else is like, "No, this just can't be. This can't be."
Well, and he couldn't go back to the temple and beg.
Nope.
He can see now.
Yeah, his whole life is radically different.
And then we get nothing. We get no follow-up.
No, yeah, I mean, the Gospels are funny that way. So, in the next 4 minutes, what do we do with this passage? What does this mean to us?
I have a question.
Oh, sure.
This spiritual blindness thing really bothers me
Okay.
because it seems
It
to
should.
Me, it seems to me that all of them were blind if they say that God won't talk to sinners,
Uh-huh.
and that even the last few things where Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would not have sin," but now that you say we see, your sin remains.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus is. It sounds like Jesus is saying that. I mean, it's kind of like there's no hope for sinners if God won't talk to you, and if you.
I think if you held it in just this context, that's true. But the story is really more about is about how these Pharisees are understanding everybody else as,
But not themselves.
but not themselves. And he really is saying to them, "Hey, religious people, you think you see. Now what do we do with this passage?"
Stop blaming other people for being in trouble.
Okay. That's a part of it, I would say. I guess. I don't. What do we do with this passage? We should watch how we treat other people. Okay. That's part of it. What else?
And we need to think of ourselves with, that we're not blind to where we are. And
Yeah.
we're like the Pharisees and think we got it.
Yeah.
Have to remember that we're on a road, we're not there.
Yeah. And
When you're pointing the finger
yeah.
at someone, you point the forward back at yourself.
Yeah, that's. We have to be seriously careful about how we're so sure about how God works, how God functions, and who God functions with. We are so sure that we know. And Jesus here is going, guess what? You don't. You really don't. And so when we're so quick and ready to throw people out of the community, and understand here, community is everything in this passage. Community is everything. So much so, I mean, we should pick up on how important the community of faith was in their day, that even the parents are so unwilling to stand up for their kid. Even as he's an adult,
And even though, and those of us in here who have adult kids, we know we're going to stick with them, right? Even when they don't do everything they should, I mean, you know? Yes. Yeah. We're going to, I mean, because they're ours. And to read this about, this is one of the most crushing parts of this story to me. I'm like, come on, dude. This is your kid. Stand up here. But not against the... He's of age. It's just like, no, I'm not even selling out my place in the community for my kid. That's how important the community faith is. But there's so, I mean, in us today, come on. If you feel rejected, turned off by one community of faith, what are you going to do? It's going on. Or you'll get on Facebook and go, are you Christians are hypocrites? I don't want to be around any of you. I'm just going to put scriptures on Facebook and be a Christian that way. But that they're so willing to be a part of the community, and that the community is that important. But for us to see that Jesus may work in some very, very different ways and with some very different people, and be willing to see how God functions in the world beyond our own parameters.
In other words, we're not in charge.
Yeah, we're not in charge. And that's a scary, scary thing.
We think we are.
Yeah, we do.
There's a bunch of control freaks in this room.
Y'all are a bunch of control freaks. You are absolutely right. Yeah. Speaking of blind, but that is, are we willing to recognize God working in places and in people that are beyond who we can imagine? Wow. Something for us to think about. Let's pray. Gracious God, we give thanks for your love, for your mercy. We give thanks that you are with us this day. Help us to see as you would have us to see.